Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video going to be a wee exploration of one of Celtic's players, Luis Palma. There's been a lot of negative press about Luis Palma over the last few days and all the Celtic fan sites, and I just thought it would be interesting for us to have a wee look at his stats this year and last year. Also, I've done a few wee highlight clips of his Celtic performances from last season. Before we do crack on with that video, please do, if you are new to the channel and you like the channel, the variety of types of video and the other content on the channel, please do click that subscriber button. Keep the numbers pushing further and further past 1,000. If you like the video, please do click that like button. And as usual, comment section open for pleasant, polite comments, thoughts, opinions, debating points, primarily in this case regarding Luis Palma and what you feel about him yourself and why you feel he hasn't gone down so well with Celtic fans as would really be expected given how his stats were for Celtic in the 23-24 season, as we'll come to later on. Just before we crack on with the stats and the analysis, etc., just a couple of minutes of Luis Palma highlights from last season, some of his goals, some of his assists, also excerpts showing him that he is fully capable of getting to the byline, beating a player with pace or skill, does work back to support the midfield and even the fullback. It does show that he actually does do many of the things that people in the press and on the Celtic fan site say that he doesn't do for Celtic. However, we'll have a wee look at the highlights and then I'll go through the stats and then my own thoughts about Luis Palma, the player. You enjoyed those couple of minutes of Luis Palma from last season. Particularly noteworthy were his couple of goals in the Champions League, one of which was disallowed for being offside. And then he also scored a penalty kick, which I haven't included. Some lovely crosses and passes, such as the outside of the foot in-swinging cross for O's header at the back post. The lovely chip across the box for James Forrest's header at the back post. His lovely pass for Matt O'Reilly's goal very early in the 4-1 win over Hearts. His lovely pass inside for Kyogo to score the third goal in that 4-1 game. And there were several other great assists and crosses. There was his lovely goal against Ross County and several other good goals. And as I said, also some evidence that he does beat fullbacks out wide with pace or trickery, does get to the byline, does actually send in crosses. And as you could see from several of those, it was more due to the fact that Kyogo, Ida, O, and the midfielders weren't converting the nice passes and crosses into the box, rather than Luis Palma not delivering those sort of assists and crosses. However, looking at his stats, Luis Palma is 24 years old, Honduras international, 16 caps for Honduras with 1 goal, 5'10" in height. Over his whole career, which has been for 4 clubs, spell in his native Honduras, a spell in Greece, and he also had a brief spell in Major League Soccer, and then joining us in late August 2023, just before the transfer window shut. So with Celtic being his 4th club. And over those 4 clubs, 175 games, 51 assists, 22 goals. One of the factors I think that is of relevance, which we'll come back to later on, is Luis Palma in 2024 has had several injuries. He had some fitness issues relating to his time away with Honduras early in 2024, coming back and having fitness issues in February time 2024, leading into an injury that kept him out for a month between March and April 2024, and he kind of worked himself back into the squad just for the end of the season. He had a pretty good pre-season training spell with Celtic, and then came on as a sub against Kilmarnock in the first game. I thought had a pretty good game, and then got injured. That kept him out for a couple of weeks or so, and he's just kind of got himself back into the first team squad over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so. So far in 2024-25 season, i.e. this season, he's had 4 games with 1 start and 3 times coming on as a sub. He had 27 minutes against Kilmarnock in that first Premiership game, 10 minutes against Hibs in the League Cup, 9 minutes against Hearts as a sub, and then 60 minutes as a starter against Falkirk just in the game last weekend. He's been an unused sub for a couple of times against Rangers and St Mirren, and then an unused sub against Slovan Bratislava. And so you can see that this season for him has been rather stop-start with injury, then coming back through rehab, some sub-appearances, sometimes sitting on the bench unused. And so it wasn't terribly unexpected that when he did get his start against Falkirk a few days ago, that he was a wee bit rusty and out of match practice and match fitness, and then thrown in against a Falkirk team who defended very well and put pressure on Celtic's wide players and fullbacks. And I didn't think that Luis Palma got terribly much support from Hitati and Bernardo and McGregor behind him. I did think Luis Palma had several good balls and crosses against Falkirk, just the midfielders and Ida didn't be on the same page as him for those. Where I think Luis Palma is a good player for Celtic is from his 23-24 stats. In 23-24, i.e. last season, 36 games, of which 24 were starts, 12 were coming on as a sub. He had 10 goals for Celtic, which made him equal 3rd top scorer, along with Daisen Maeda, behind Kyogo and Matt O'Reilly. He was 2nd for assists with 10, with Matt O'Reilly getting more assists than him. But last season, Luis Palma had more assists than Maeda, Forrest, Kuhn, McGregor, Hatate, Bernardo, and the fullbacks. And so being third for goals, second for assists, and equal top scorer in the Champions League with 2, and had that goal not been offside by a couple of centimetres, he would have been the top scorer for Celtic in the Champions League as well. So for me, I think Luis Palma is a good player for Celtic. I think clearly at the moment he is, alongside James Forrest, is the backup to Dyson Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn. I think Luis Palma is a good player. He has clearly the ability to score, clearly has the ability to deliver a dead ball, such as free kicks and corners, clearly has the ability to deliver nice crosses and passes to set up teammates. He isn't a conventional old-fashioned winger, i.e. he doesn't hit the byline. However, neither Dyson Maeda, Nicholas Kuhn, James Forrest are particularly players these days who beat the fullback on the outside, hit the byline and cross into the box. It does appear that Brendan Rodgers very much wants his wide players to be more cutting inside, which seems to be particularly Dyson Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn's main attribute. Both of them can beat the fullback and hit the byline, but as you can see from the video highlights from last season, Luis Palma also can beat the fullback on the outside, hit the byline and deliver a nice cross. My memory of Brendan Rodgers' first spell as Celtic manager, he had wide players such as Scott Sinclair and Patrick Roberts. Both of them tended to play on the wing, but then cut inside more so than hitting the byline. And if we think back to Ange Postecoglou's time, both Jota and Lee Labada similarly played a lot of the time as wide players, but cutting in to deliver crosses and passes and to act as inside forwards coming in to score at the back post when the ball was being delivered from the other side. So it does appear that Luis Palma is doing what Brendan Rodgers wants him to do, i.e. Play out wide, cut inside and appear in the box to finish at the back post. I feel much like Dyson Maeda, he could improve that final ball. He could improve also his final shot on goal. A bit like Dyson Maeda, a lot of his crosses don't quite reach the right place or the right man, and he does miss a number of chances. We do seem very keen to forgive Dyson Maeda for missing chances and missing crosses. I think Luis Palma is a hard-working player. There are a lot of stories from Celtic insiders to say that Luis Palma is one of a few players who comes in on days off for extra training or stays behind for extra training to polish up his skills, fitness and endurance. And so I think there are many things to commend Luis Palma. I would be personally disappointed if Celtic do get rid of him in the winter transfer window. Celtic turned down quite a number of very good bids from 4 or 5 leagues in the summer transfer window, and so it would appear that at this time Brendan Rodgers is very keen to keep Luis Palma as part of the squad, and I do think at some point this season, given Nicholas Kuhn's usual injury record, that players such as Forrest, Yang and Luis Palma are all going to have important spells where they're going to be starters, and the more game minutes that Luis Palma gets, the better he's going to be, in my opinion. Now, you all may have different opinions. I think he is a player with talent. I think he's a player who can get better and better, and I think the coaching and man management of Brendan Rodgers is a good way for Luis Palma to improve his skills, improve his energy levels, and improve his endurance. and improve his delivery and finishing. And so I do see Luis Palma being at Celtic for another few years, and I see him getting better and better over the next season or two. I think also one of the things we have to remember is in January, February, everybody was calling for Nicholas Kuhn to be dropped and put into onto the scrap heap and then chucked out in the summer. He got himself fully fit. He had a number of good appearances towards the end of 23-24. Good series of friendly matches, good series of training sessions, and has so far this season been one of Celtic's best players, and of course was the super sub in our 5-2 win against Falkirk a few days ago. There are no great other Celtic news stories at the moment, still waiting for full confirmation of how severe Cameron Carter-Vickers' injury is. It would appear that Alistair Johnson had an injection prior to the Falkirk match and needed a couple of days recovery, but he is back in training fully and will be available if selected for the game against St Johnstone. Cameron Carter-Vickers sat out training at the end of last week and continues to be sitting out training. He was for a specialist opinion, but Celtic, as yet, at time of recording the video, haven't really released what the results of Carter-Vickers' fitness test and assessments and scans was. And I would suspect that Brendan Rodgers will give us all an update in his press conference on Friday afternoon as to how long Cameron Carter-Vickers is going to be out, and whether he will or won't be fit for the Borussia Dortmund game the following Wednesday. I suspect that, given what his injury is supposed to be, which is an injury to the big toe metatarsal, so the bone just below your big toe, in essence the bone that joins your big toe into your foot, is quite a nasty injury to receive. It's the injury that ended Mark Reaper's career. It's the injury that ended Gary Lineker's career. It's an injury that's kept out several players for spells of days to weeks to months. And so it is going to require that specialist opinion. But I suspect Carter-Vickers is likely out for a couple of weeks at the very least, which would mean him missing Borussia Dortmund, and then we've got an international break after that. And so hopefully Carter-Vickers should be back fully fit for the third Champions League match, which is our away game against Atalanta in Italy. Just to finish things off, just a wee encouragement suggestion. If you are new to the channel and not yet subscribed, please do click that subscribe button. If you like the video, please do click that like button. And as always, comment section open for pleasant, polite comments. What you feel regarding Luis Palma? Do you feel he's got a long-term future? Do his stats of being last season third for goals, second for assists, and equal top scorer in the Champions League, is that not a factor in showing how good he was in effect last season? Should Celtic be looking to move him on in January and bring in another new player to play on the left wing to back up Dyson Maeda? Do feel free to pop your thoughts on those topics and any other Celtic issues into the comment section. And so until the next video, a goodbye and hail, hail.